Today we find out about these kids that showed up in the last issue, and we get to find out what happened on the other end of the conversation of X-Men number 3 with Scott and Rogue. My name is Dorian, this is SCM Comics. We're continuing our coverage of Uncanny X-Men with number 2. So our story starts off with Charles Xavier when he was a young man at university. I know, like everywhere else in the world, they say university, and here we say college. It's almost like, it's football everywhere else, but it's soccer here. It's an American thing. But he's writing in his journal, and he says that before there was Myra, before Lalandria, there was her. And this girl walks up to him pretty much saying, hey, I need you to get your nose out of that book and come help me. She tells him to give her a boost so she can go up in this tree and bring down a frisbee. Who plays frisbee in the middle of winter? Now, I'm from Northeast Ohio, so I know all about the cold. But trust me, if this YouTube thing works out, I will be recording these things from Florida. So they introduce themselves. Obviously, he says, my name is Charles, and she says, my name is Sarah. It's going to be important at the end of this. So then she says that once a woman crawls up one side of the man and down the other, it's customary for that man to treat her to some tea. Remind me, whatever country there are, not to go to that country. You trying to tell me the man gets abused and then he has to pay? So now we cut to right where we left off in the first book, where Rogue, Gambit, and Wolverine are confronted by some strange kids. Unfortunately, Gambit is kind of mesmerized by the eye of Agamotto, not the one that Doctor Strange had. Agamotto had 2 eyes. The dragon had the other one. And yeah, just, you know what? Watch the first video. Links in the description. And one of the kids walks up on Wolverine, and Rogue's like, ugh, this is not going to end well. But all of a sudden, this kid is hit with the energy coming out of the eye of Agamotto. So Rogue turns around to Gambit's like, what the hell is going on? And Gambit's like, what are you looking at me for? I'm a thief, not a wizard. So then the kid's on the ground. One of the other kids goes to check on him. Wolverine also walks over to check on him. And then the kid gets up and punches Wolverine. So the Rogue's like, all right, everybody settle down. So then the girl standing next to the horse all of a sudden gets onto the horse, and like these golden wings come out of nowhere, and the horse turns into a Pegasus, and then she has like this golden suit of armor with like this golden flaming sword, and she starts flying around. I was thinking to myself, gotta admit, didn't see that one coming. So the Gambit's facing down this other girl, and he's like, I don't want to throw these cards at you. And she goes hand-to-hand combat, and she hits something on like a watch. All of a sudden, she's like focused, and then she kicks the bejesus out of Gambit, telling him, you better go home and get the rest of your cards. And then Pegasus girl comes down and slashes at Rogue with her flaming sword. And Rogue's like, what the hell's going on? These kids look like they could barely drive, yet and still we're losing. So this Asian kid walks over, and his speech bubbles are in like really dark text, so it's got to be something to do with either like darkness or death. And he's like, you have killed a lot of people, Logan, and they all miss you, as you see all these people that are behind them. So now we cut to Graymalkin prison. Not gonna lie, that Graymalkin kind of threw me off. I'm thinking, ain't that the name of Cable's old ship that can like time travel and do all that stuff? And I'm pretty sure it was, but no. Graymalkin is the mansion. And we're back dealing with this crazy, power-hungry heifer. The captain is trying to tell her or warn her about something, and she's like, look, didn't we just pay for like the best defense system to ever be built? He's like, yes, ma'am. So then she's like, they quit worrying. So they go to the danger room, and pretty much he's like, so when do you want me to dismantle this? And she's like, hold on. I don't want dismantled. Actually, I want you to bring the next mutant into here, and this is what we're going to deal with. So then we cut back to Charles Xavier in his younger days, and he's with Sarah. They're having tea, and she's like, can you take off your hat? And he's like, oh, here comes the deal breaker. Takes it off, and he is clean as a whistle, bald as hell. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever seen Charles Xavier with hair, like, ever. Even when they go like way back to like his like, when he was a teenager, I think he's always been bald. Is that because of his mutant powers or what? Like, someone in the comments let me know that, knows a lot more X-Men than I do. Like, when did he lose his hair and why did he lose his hair? So then she goes, what color was your hair when you did have it? And he goes, blonde, apparently blonde. And she goes, nah, this is good. Kisses him on the forehead and it's like, because I hate blonde. So now we go back to Graymalkin, and the heifer has caught Siren. And she's like, yep, we're going to torture you, and Charles Xavier is dead, so there is no hope. they take off the little binds off of Siren's mouth, and she's like, quit lying. I don't want to hear it. And besides, let me tell you, your podcast, it sucks. I imagine this heifer's podcast is probably like Candace Owens. This is probably like the comic book version of Candace Owens. And by the way, if I ever met Candace Owens, I would probably address her as heifer too. Anyway, she kind of changes her tune and goes, we're going to fix everything, Teresa. How would you like to be one of my trustees? Now we switch back to the X-Men, and Rogue's like, I can't punch a horse. Definitely can't punch a horse. But bratty teen girls, I've been doing that since junior high school, and punches the bejesus out of Pegasus girl. So she's falling. Old boy that punched Wolverine's trying to catch her, but then Wolverine gives it back right to him. So she falls into some tall grass, and then we see that Wolverine punched old boy while holding the Asian dude in a headlock. And then the girl that did the spinning jump kick to Gambit, her watch like starts beeping, and then Gambit does some judo of his own and flips her over. Now we're kind of right back to where we left off, where they're kind of squaring off with each other, and then all of a sudden all we hear is, how about this? Why don't everybody leave everybody alone? And we see, as sparks are in the sky, it's Jubilee. And Jubilee's like, who would have ever thought that I would be the adult in the situation? So Rogue runs over, picks her up, talking about jubilation. Not gonna lie, I was pretty deep in the X-Men when I found out their real name is Jubilation. So Rogue's like, hey, grown-ups gotta talk, so why don't you four go by the fire and we'll be with you in a minute. So one of the dudes is like, can we get a beer? And they're like, no. So Jubilee's been on recon to Graymalkin. That happened in the free comic book day issue of X-Men. I read it, but I just didn't really deem it too important to cover it. So Rogue decides to have Wolverine and Gambit talk to the kids while her and Jubilee talk about what happened to Graymalkin. Once she does that, then she decides to give the last person she ever wanted to give a call. So then Wolverine's like, all right, what are your names and where are you from? And they start letting them know, like Watch Girls from Singapore, Old Boy that Punched Wolverines from Buenos Aires, Asian guys from Kaido, and Pegasus Girl is from Virginia. So then Wolverine's like, but what are your mutant names? So Singapore's name is Jitter, Buenos Aires is Random, Kaido is Death Dream, and Virginia is Calico, but she says she's not a mutant. So then Gambit's like, so what are you doing here? And she's like, I had nowhere else to go. Wolverine asks Death Dream in Japanese, why do you smell like death? And Death Dream goes, I can ask you the same question there, Logan. So then Random goes, look, we flipped a coin, heads for X-Men, tails for the Brotherhood. It came up heads. Where's the Brotherhood at? Like, and who's running this Brotherhood? Because Magneto is with the X-Men in Alaska. So who's running the Brotherhood? And like, I got questions. So Rogue calls Scott, and now we find out that that conversation was about Graymalkin. Scott doesn't want Rogue to do anything as far as like move in on Graymalkin, and Rogue's like, no, we need to move in on Graymalkin like right now. So Rogue hangs up on Scott, and then she goes dials another number. Jubilee's like, who you calling? She's like, we need Kurt. And Jubilee's like, why him? And Rogue's like, because damn it, if there's no X-Men around, then we're going to be the X-Men. So then Wolverine asks Jitter, what has been hunting you? And she goes, you don't know? It's the Hag. And then we turn the page and we see the heifer talking to somebody. And it's the same somebody that snatched Dear Girl in issue 1. And her name happens to be Sarah.